just before we jump into our tips, let's talk about the current favourites for the asterisk flag. Our current favourites on the flag. So, like, obviously, we both tipped Collingwood to win the flag, and you know they've been probably the best bunch, really, but not really, actually. Actually, look, I'm still on there, but let's go through it. So, these are the favourites right now. So you got the Western Bulldogs, who a lot of people talked about being potential there. You got GWS. You got Collingwood, you got Port Adelaide. We're going to use West Coast because they technically were at the beginning of the season. Actually, you know what? We're not going to go through this because there's a lot of teams that you could take out and a lot of teams you could take in. Who's your favourite for the flag right now? Because right now, no one's played exceptionally unbelievable, in my opinion. And if you want to talk about Port Adelaide, they haven't actually played anybody really of note, to be honest with you. But then again, could you class anybody as real note right now? Because Collingwood are a fantastic team, but I feel like GWS is their bogey team. I feel like GWS is the bogey team. But when they played Richmond, Collingwood drew. And they're not really a bogey team. That's just the two teams that you'd expect to be in the grand final. But when saying that as well, Richmond haven't been great. They haven't won since they've come back as well. So it's like this whole season is just all over the shop right now. There is no real favourite. So who would you at this point be like, well, is there a favourite right now? Is there a favourite?
There isn't a favourite as such. You could argue that Collingwood is that up the top, but obviously that draw and GWS being their bogey team, I would say Collingwood. I think the Lions are another big. They're real competitive this season. I think they'll be right up there.
But they did struggle against like they won by nearly 40 points, but they also only won by 40 points. Adelaide, they conceded 46 points to Adelaide. Like Adelaide
were quite good on the weekend. I watched a bit of that game. Adelaide weren't outstanding. Like, don't start commenting, what does this guy think Adelaide is good? They were decent against a very strong Lions side who Lachie Neale couldn't kick a goal, but he could kick 6 behinds, of course, as we all saw. The other team that I think is Port Adelaide. I think you're really all over on them.
I'm all over Port Adelaide. Yeah, I'm all over.
Yeah, I want to be, but I think they'll still need to play one of those tougher sides like your Collingwood or even maybe your GWS before I am completely convinced that Port Adelaide are the real deal. But at this stage, I would put Port Adelaide finishing about 5th or 6th.
Yeah, well, it's hard because if you look at Brisbane, mate, like they're actually, like I'll be honest with you, like when you look at Brisbane, they've lost to Hawthorn in the first game. They beat Freo by only 12 points, Fremantle, who are shocking. Then they played West Coast, who are just beyond shocking right now. And then they've played the Crows, who they still, they won, but it was the Crows, and they didn't really convincingly slaughter them, which they probably should have. I guess they play Port Adelaide this week, which is going to tell us a lot. That game will tell us a lot. But I don't know about favourites this year, man, right now, because there's 3 teams that I think would be the teams that I want to see teams go up against to prove themselves against. And there's going to be one team that you may disagree with me here on, though. So, obviously, Collingwood. We all know Collingwood are that team. So, Collingwood, I want to see, and this is the team I think you might disagree with me on, Geelong. And the reason why I say Geelong is because, yes, they've been struggling, but they also know how to put in a massive performance against the big teams. So when they're putting in a massive performance against the big teams, we're going to see the big teams, we're going to actually see good teams prove their worth. Because Geelong know how to keep it close to the shocking teams and potentially lose the shocking teams, but they keep it really close against the big teams. So that's the question that we're going to see with Geelong. We're going to see with Collingwood, and arguably, I would still throw out, buddy. I'd argue say Richmond still at this point as well. I'd argue say actually, you know what? I'm not going to argue Richmond. I'm going to say Brisbane. I'm going to say Brisbane because Richmond right now are not the benchmark. Right now they're not the benchmark. So I will use Brisbane, but then again, I would also put Brisbane in a stage where I want to see them go up against Geelong or Collingwood to see where they are.
I wouldn't count Richmond or the Eagles out just yet. I think if Eagles lose this week, then they're not playing
Eagles
finals.
Out, mate. I'm counting the Eagles out.
But Richmond have Demons, Kangas, GWS coming out, and I think counting them out right now is too early. We saw last year due to injury they had that struggle period, and look at them, they won the competition. So I wouldn't count Richmond out just yet out of that.
I wouldn't count Richmond out just yet. No, but I'm counting West Coast out. But the thing is that West Coast was meant to play Richmond this week, and whoever lost that, I would have counted out. Whoever lost that game, but that's been changed obviously. So look, I've watched West Coast multiple times this season. They were absolutely diabolical against Port Adelaide. They were absolutely diabolical. They got trounced by the Lions, and then they got absolutely slaughtered by the Suns. And right there, they're 3 winnable games if you're West Coast. They're 3 winnable games. If you lost to Collingwood, Richmond, and say Geelong, for example, you'd be like, okay, there's an excuse there. But I'm sorry. And the Suns have been great. And we talked about this last week, and we're not going to get into it again this week. But the Suns have been great, but I want to see them come up against a good team, because they haven't came up against anyone. They came up against West Coast, who have been shit this year.
Is that what we're getting? Is that what we're getting this week, in your opinion, or you want?
Yeah, I think we'll see the Suns come up against a decent team in Geelong. I know I'm a Geelong fan. People are going to be like, "Oh, you're biased," but they're playing at Cardinia. They're playing in Cardinia, or GMHPA, whatever you want to call it, by the Alphabet Stadium. They're playing at Cardinia. If the Suns can win that, yeah, they'll probably prove themselves to me. But then again, Geelong also have been great this year. I want to see the Suns go up against Collingwood. I think Collingwood's nearly the only team that you'd nearly say at this point is the only team you'd want to see. And Brisbane go up against Collingwood the week after.